Detroit built millions of cars that stuck around for a decade or more. These 8 did not. Each one lived and died in a single model year, and each one has a story that explains why. Number 8, the 1964 Rambler Typhoon. American Motors didn't build the Typhoon to win anything. It built the car to introduce something new under the hood. Through the early 1960s, AMC's inline-6 engines still traced their design back to the early 1940s, and the company had sunk about $45 million into replacing them with a modern 7-main bearing 6 called the Torque Command. A brand new engine needed a special car to carry it into showrooms, so AMC dressed up its classic 770 two-door hardtop, dropped the new 232 cubic inch 6 under the hood rated at 145 horsepower, and gave it a name that sounded like nothing else in the Rambler lineup. Every Typhoon left the factory in the same two-tone combination: solar yellow paint with a gloss black roof, black accented grille, and Typhoon script in place of the usual classic badging. Inside sat a black vinyl interior with bucket seats and a console, a step up from the standard Rambler cabin. AMC built the Typhoon for one shortened model year, starting in April 1964, and total production stopped at 2,520 cars. That low number is exactly why the Typhoon matters to collectors today. It isn't remembered for speed. It's remembered as the one-year showcase for an engine platform so durable that Jeep was still using descendants of it into the early 2000s. Number 7, the 1967 Rambler Rogue convertible. AMC spent the mid-1960s trying to prove a compact Rambler could be sporty instead of merely sensible, and the Rogue trim was its answer. For 1967 only, AMC offered the Rogue as a convertible built on the Rambler American platform, and it turned out to be a one-year experiment that was never repeated. Just 921 were built before AMC dropped the convertible body style from the Rogue line entirely. The formula paired an affordable compact with sportier furnishings, reclining bucket seats, unique trim, and a cabin that felt more upscale than a base American. Buyers could order anything from the workaday 232 cubic inch 6 up to a 343 cubic inch 4-barrel V8 rated at 280 horsepower and 365 pound-feet of torque. Though that V8 was a late-year option and exceedingly rare in the convertible, fewer than 10 are believed to have left the factory with it. Even the 6-cylinder cars were uncommon. The V8 convertibles are practically ghosts. With the convertible body gone after a single season, the 67 Rogue occupies an odd space in AMC history, proof that the company could build something genuinely stylish right before it decided not to keep doing it. Number 6, the 1968 Mercury Cougar XR7-G. Everyone remembers Carroll Shelby's Mustangs. Almost nobody remembers that Mercury tried the same trick with the Cougar. Introduced in March 1968 and named for racing driver Dan Gurney, the XR7-G started life as a standard Cougar XR7 before being routed to the A.O. Smith facility in Michigan, the same shop finishing Shelby Mustangs that year, for a round of upgrades assigned through Shelby Automotive. The transformation was thorough: a reworked front valance housing Lucas fog lamps, a fiberglass hood scoop, hood pins with tie-down cables, a Talbot-style racing mirror, and G badging scattered across the headlight doors, C-pillars, and trunk. Buyers could option a power sunroof, and under the hood sat anything from a 302 up to the 335 horsepower 428 Cobra Jet. Mercury barely advertised the car. A single Life magazine spread and a sunroof commercial were about the extent of it. Production wrapped at somewhere close to 620 cars, with roughly 190 of those going into Hertz rental fleets. Mercury never brought the XR7G back for 1969, which leaves it one of the rarest performance Cougars ever built, and one of the least known Shelby adjacent cars from the era. Number 5, the 1969 Mercury Cyclone CJ. By 1969, Mercury wanted into the budget muscle car fight that Plymouth's Roadrunner and Dodge's Super Bee had turned into a sales phenomenon. Its entry was the Cyclone CJ, and unlike earlier Cyclones that were simply trim packages, the CJ became its own standalone performance model. Everyone came standard with the 428 Cobra Jet V8, rated at 335 horsepower and 440 pound-feet of torque, backed by a 4-speed manual, a 3.50 rear axle, and a competition suspension package. An optional Ram Air setup added a functional hood scoop for buyers who wanted the full effect. Period road tests backed up the spec sheet.
Car and driver ran a CJ428 down the quarter mile in the high 13-second range at right around 100 miles per hour. And Motor Trend's test came in close behind it. That put the Cyclone CJ in the same performance neighborhood as far more famous muscle cars from Chevrolet and Plymouth. Despite that, Mercury sold the Cyclone CJ in far smaller numbers than Ford's mechanically similar Torino Cobra, estimates for 1969 production run in the low thousands. Some sources cite as few as 2,175 units. Living in Ford's shadow while running the same engine has kept the Cyclone CJ one of the more overlooked muscle cars of its generation. Number 4. The 1970 Oldsmobile Rally 350. By 1970, insurance surcharges on big block muscle cars were starting to scare away exactly the young buyers those cars were built for. Oldsmobile's answer was to shrink the engine and turn up the paint instead. The Rally 350 package, officially Option W45, was available for 1 year only on the Cutlass S and F 85 coupes, and it came in precisely one color, Sebring yellow, applied not just to the body but to the bumpers and wheels as well, set off with black and orange striping. Under the hood sat the L74 350 cubic inch V8, rated at 310 horsepower and 390 pound-feet of torque. A genuinely strong small block for the era, paired with a stiffer FE2 suspension package, dual exhaust, and a choice of 3-speed manual, 4-speed manual, or turbo 350 automatic. The idea was to deliver muscle car theater without the big block insurance bill. Not every buyer wanted quite that much yellow, and some dealers reportedly swapped in chrome bumpers just to move the cars off the lot. Oldsmobile built 3,547 Rally 350 SAs in total before quietly retiring the package, leaving it as one of the most visually distinctive one-year muscle cars of the entire era. Number 3, the 1973 Jeep Super Jeep. Some special editions come from careful planning. This one came from a parts shortage. AMC, which owned Jeep by 1973, ran short of the aluminum slotted wheels used on its popular CJ5 Renegade package, and rather than halt production, the company built a substitute special edition around whatever it had on hand. Assembly ran only a few months, roughly May through July of 1973, and AMC's own records from the period are incomplete enough that historians can only estimate the total. Most put it at under 300 units. The Super Jeep took a standard CJ5 and covered it in bold striping oversized stars and a choice of 2 color schemes, red, white, and blue, or orange and white. Underneath the graphics sat real hardware, including the 304 cubic inch V8, rated at 150 horsepower and 245 pound-feet of torque, a factory roll bar, and wide white-wall tires that gave the little off-roader a noticeably tougher stance. Because so few were built and even fewer have survived, the Super Jeep has become one of the hardest vintage Jeeps to find in the wild, a rarity born entirely by accident. Number 2, the 1977 Pontiac Can Am. By the late 1970s, the muscle car era was supposed to be over. Pontiac marketer Jim Wangers, the man behind the original GTO campaign, didn't quite agree, and the Can Am was his last attempt to prove it. Built for 1977 only, the Can Am started as a Le Mans sport coupe, before being shipped to Wanger's Motortown operation for an aero package. Shaker hood scoop, rear spoiler, blacked out lower body, and bold red, orange, yellow graphics over cameo white paint. Inside, the dashboard and gauge cluster were borrowed from the Grand Prix. Most Can Ams carried Pontiac's 400 cubic inch W72 V8, rated at 200 horsepower and 325 pound-feet of torque. California and high-altitude buyers instead received an Oldsmobile 403 rated at 185 horsepower. Neither engine made the Can Am fast by earlier muscle car standards. Period road tests clocked it around 10 seconds to 60 and roughly 17 seconds in the quarter mile. But the presentation did what Wangers intended and turned heads regardless. Production stopped at 1,377 cars, reportedly after the mold used to cast the rear spoiler was damaged. Of those, only 42 carry the Oldsmobile engine, making them the rarest variant of an already rare one-year-only send-off to Pontiac's muscle car era. Number 1. The 1977 AMC Hornet AMX. The AMX badge once meant something serious inside AMC, a genuine 2-seat performance car in the late 1960s. By 1977, tightening emissions rules in a fading muscle car market meant AMC could no longer justify that kind of car. So it borrowed the name one last time for a dressed-up version of the Hornet hatchback. It was never meant to be a sports car. It was meant to look like one. The package added a front air dam, fender flares, color-keyed bumpers, body stripes, rally wheels, and sportier seats to an otherwise ordinary compact. Buyers chose between a 258 cubic inch inline 6, rated at 114 horsepower with either a 4-speed manual or automatic, or a 304 cubic inch V8, rated at around 120 horsepower. Available only with an automatic, since a manual-equipped V8 would have needed separate, costlier emissions certification that AMC decided wasn't worth the expense. AMC built roughly 5,200 Hornet AMXs for the model year, split close to evenly between 6-cylinder and V8 cars, before the Hornet itself was replaced for 1978. It's a small footnote in AMC's history, but it marks the exact moment the American muscle car had to trade horsepower for styling just to survive. And that makes it one of the more telling one-year-only cars on this list. Which of these one-year originals would you park in your own garage? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this rundown, like and subscribe for more forgotten American classics.